A SOUQ morning to you. Welcome to SOUQ News Television. Happy Democracy Day, June 12th today. And it's going to be SOUQ Business Landscape. But before that, we'll have a live broadcast from our President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Stay with us as we listen to this.
We could not have won the battle against dictatorship without the irrepressible Nigerian journalists who mounted the barricades along with the pro-democracy activists. We celebrate them today, along with their media establishments, such as The Punch, The Guardian, National Concord, Tribune, The News and Tempo, and Tel magazines. The undemocratic government of the day proscribed these media establishments and jailed their journalists for standing for free speech and civil liberties and the sanctity of the June 12th elections. Despite the leather might of the authoritarian government, what appeared to be high and unyielding walls of dictatorship came tumbling down. The dismal fortress exists no longer. The power of an idea, the power of the people proved more potent than all the guns, the munitions, and the threat of the strong men. The nation exited the yoke of dictatorship in 1999 to become the most populous democracy on African soil, the beacon of democratic self-determination for the black race and one of the largest democracies in the world. This change stands as a pivotal moment in human history. From this change, we shall never turn, nor shall annals of mankind's progress forget the sublime meaning of this great moment. Today, 25 years later, we celebrate the silver anniversary of our journey in democracy. We have studied the course. Democracy is neither a foreign nor abstract concept devoid of real-life meaning for us. Neither can we afford to reduce or minimize it to being nothing but the mere holding of periodic elections where one candidate and party outdo another. While elections attract democratic attention, they are but one aspect of democracy. Democracy is a way of life that encompasses a broad outlook of which elections are but a part. As such, a nation can have elections without being democratic, but a nation cannot be truly democratic without holding elections. That we have established a tradition of holding transparent, open, and fair elections gives credence to our democratic standing. That we have experienced peaceful transitions of government affirms our democratic temperament. Fellow Nigerians, true democracy shined its light on the daily lives of the people who live under its nurturing wings. It affords us the freedom and liberty to think as we want, live where we want, and pursue whatever legitimate endeavors suits us. Democracy does not assume some false or false unity of opinion. In fact, democracy assumes that conflicting ideas and differing opinions shall be the order of the day, given the diversity and variety of the human experience. There must be diverse perspectives and viewpoints. What democracy demands is that we do not resolve differences through force and repression, but we make allowance for the legitimacy of views that differ from our own. The other forms of government impose against the will of the people. Democracy aims to make leaders who conduct themselves as servants of the common good, not as viceroys of the narrow interests of the might. My dear compatriots, Nigeria faced the decision of untold gravity 25 years ago, whether to veer towards better destination or continue aimlessly in fog of dictatorship. We made the right choice then. We must continue with that choice now. As Nigerians, we must remind ourselves that no matter how complicated democracy may be, it is the best form of governance in the long run. We must also be aware that there are those among us who will try to exploit current challenges to undermine, if not destroy, this democracy for which so much has already been given. This is the great battle of our day and the major reason we specially celebrate this day as Democracy Day. The true meaning of the day is not to focus solely on the great deeds of the past that have brought us to this point. Yes, we pay eternal honor to those who laid down their lives, sacrificing everything to pave the way for the nation. I stand uniquely placed in this regard, and I was among those who took the risk to midwife the birth of our democracy. I am now a direct and obvious beneficiary of the fruit of those historic efforts. As a president of this nation, I am morally and constitutionally bound to preserve this precious form of governance. I vow to do my utmost best to protect your rights, freedom, and liberty as citizens of Nigeria. Even more than that, I pledge to do whatever is necessary to cement democracy as our way of life. Although the challenges are steep and multiple, I am grateful to lead Nigeria at this moment in our history and point in our democratic journey. I come before you also to declare that our most important work remains before us. The real test has never been whether we will rise to the challenge, the sling of misfortune and grievous pains of dictatorship. The real test is whether we shall lower our guards and fail to defend democracy as the shadow of despotism and its evident physical danger fade. I say to you here and now that as we celebrate the enshrinement of our political democracy, let us commit ourselves to the fulfillment of equally important counterpart, the realization of our economic democracy. I understand the economic difficulties we face as a nation right now. Our economy has been in desperate need of reform for decades. It has been unbalanced because it was built on the flawed foundations and over-reliance on revenue from exploitation of oil. The reforms we have initiated are intended to create a stronger, better foundation for future growth. There is no doubt that the reform has occasioned hardship. I feel your pains. Yet the unnecessary repairs required to fix the economy over the long run so that everyone has access to economic opportunity, fair pay, and compensation for its endeavor and labor. As we continue to reform the economy, I shall always listen to the people and will never turn my back on you. In this spirit, we have negotiated in good faith and with open arms with organized labor on a new national minimum wage. We shall soon send our executive bill to the National Assembly to enshrine what has been agreed upon as part of our law for the next 5 years or less. In the face of labor's call for national strike, we did not seek to oppress or crack down on the workers as a dictatorial government of the past would have done. We chose the path of cooperation over conflict. Nobody was arrested or threatened. Instead, the labor leadership was invited to break bread and negotiate towards good faith resolution. Reasoned discussions and principled compromise are a hallmark of democracy. These themselves shall continue to animate my policies and interaction with the constituent part of our political economy. I take on this vital task without fear or favor, and I commit myself to this work until we have built a Nigeria where no man is oppressed. In the end, our national greatness will not be achieved by traversing or traveling the easy way. It can only be achieved by taking the right one. The words of American President Franklin Roosevelt sadly rings true, and I quote, "There are many ways of going forward, but only one way of standing still," and unquote. We dare not slumber, lest the good things awaiting our immediate future pass us by. We dare not plant our feet in the idle standstill in the middle of the intersection of hope and despair. We know the proper way forward, and we shall take it. The initial rays of a brighter tomorrow now appears on the horizon. An abundant future and our capacity to achieve that future lies within our reach. Democracy and the institution it begets over to take us to our profound destination. Let us board this progressive train together. And together, let us move Nigeria forward. Let's continue to keep the fire of democracy burning. Let's keep the torch lit for generations to come. May God continue to bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria and preserve our democracy. I wish us all happy Democracy Day.
My name is Ike Namba, and I will say quickly, good Nigeria to you before my guests and analysts will say it. I introduce you, Dr. Idahosa Osamanze. We have missed you, and it's good to have you back on SBL.
Great Nigeria, the greatest country on the planet Earth.
Yes, it is. Especially today, that is Democracy Day, and we urge you to celebrate with us. But we're just listening to our president talk to us about how he feels about the country and how he expects us to feel as well. Doc, we're talking about 25 years of democracy, and he mentioned it passionately. How was it before then? And how has it been from then till now?
Well, I think there's something that I specifically missed out of the address of Mr. President, which for me are quite fundamental.
Would you share with us?
I will. And I think it's very important because, like they say, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And I don't think we have to be celebrating democracy with June 12 alone, because there were a whole lot of antecedents before June 12. The botched transition of June 12 didn't start in June 12.
There was a process. There was
a process. The then military regime, Babangida, put up a transition program, encouraged Nigeria to come together, which would have been the real and the fundamental and the root of democracy in Nigeria. That the people should come together and bonding themselves in political associations and groups. And Nigerians complied. People were with loads and trucks of registration materials to Abuja to be registered and recognized as political party. And all of a sudden, Babangida botched that process. Set up two political parties, which has no owners or stakeholders, but we all just joined it because the two political parties seems to belong to him. And so people came into those parties, and then, of course, the transition started in earnest. The primary that was done by the political party, the SDP, at that particular time, the late General Sheikh Musa Yar'Adua won that primary convincingly and across the divide. Not just winning in the north, he won everywhere. And then the same President Babangida aborted that process. And that was what brought LKO on board. On the same 40 vehicles. So for me, it was already given that the president was not serious with transition. He didn't want to hand over power to anybody, and therefore tried to destroy the entire process. And I think it was nice and necessary if our president also would have alluded to those processes that led to June 12th, because it did not start with June 12th. June 12th was just a kind of, how do I put it now, a fallout. An outcome.
Unplanned.
A planned fallout. Yeah, because the President Babangida understood what he was doing. Although recently he has spoken and he said there were some powers who were making him not to do the certain things that he wanted to do, which of course is not acceptable. And these are the real issues that for me, needs to be addressed. And these people who actually lay that bedrock, those who spend their hard-earned money. Because I like that the fact that the president spoke to the fact that democracy is not just about periodic elections. It's a culture, it's a way of life. And if there's anything that our democratic transition is missing at the moment, is the fact that we don't have a political culture. The party systems are weak. And so they cannot really become the harbinger of the customs and traditions that democracy represent. So that for me was a shortfall. We need to tell the story completely because it did not start with June 12. Some people suffered the way Abiola suffered. Musa Yar'Adua put in his resources to get us to some certain point before this man aborted the process.
I was going to get to that part, which was my second question. There are people that gave their lives for where we are today.
Yeah.
Are we honoring them enough? Have we, people that sacrificed for all this, are we honoring them enough? Are we saying, these people will recognize what you have done? How do we get there?
Yeah, but I think it's the starting point, and I think that is the healing part of this conversation.
And we must heal.
You see, because, yeah, of course, we have to deliberately heal. Because as long as we remain sentimental about our analysis and begin and treat symptoms rather than the root cause, we will definitely begin to have problems. And I think it is high time we start to call out names. Yeah, it's important. Because until we tell ourselves this basic national truth, we cannot heal. So we know where we are coming from. Our children will understand our history.
And why is calling out names important? Because I know that these things were done in the open.
Yeah.
It wasn't hidden. And people saw.
No. You see, there were some basic actors in the front who were in the front end.
Yes.
But there were basic actors at the back end who are the real enemy of democracy.
Spearhead.
And I am not sure that they are all dead. Some of them are still alive. And this is why you see that the democratic culture is still wobbling 25 years after. How are we going to measure, for example, the success of democracy? If you were to ask me, as a person, to assess how far we have gone democratically, I will tell you it's 25 years of ignoring on the same spot, which of course the president alluded to, that there are many ways to move forward according to the former president of America. But there's only one way to stand still. But I think we have been standing still for 25 years because we have not left that circle. We are in the same spot for 25 years. Now, I expect that by now, for example, Chapter 2 of our Constitution should become justiciable.
Please break that down further.
Now, the Constitution in Chapter 2 says that democratic power derives from the people.
Okay. Isn't that what it is?
It is not.
Because the same people who are choosing to represent us are from within, are from amongst us.
No. So the power is from the people.
Yes.
Now, how do we talk about the power of the people when some few people banded themselves together and they call the shots and tell how power should move and how power should not move? This is a problem. So they say that they are the nation maker. For it, power is deriving from 200 million Nigerians. Then, of course, those 200 million Nigerians should be empowered. Social justice is pledged in that constitution. Security of life and property is pledged in that constitution. Economic prosperity of the people is pledged in that chapter of the constitution. Who are we going to hold responsible, for example, for the insecurity in our land? Because that's what government says it will do. That's what the democratic government says it will do.
Has that been happening?
It's not happening as we speak. And if this is not happening, then somebody should pay the price. Without explanation. We talk about, for example, that Nigerians are not going to be treated, irrespective of where you come from, irrespective of your social standing. We are going to be treated equally because we are one. It's written in Chapter 2 of that Constitution.
We hear it all the time.
Yeah. So how one are we? So can we say for certainty that we are really one? That's a question. And I'm so asking, you talk about the rule of law. I would have even expected this morning that in this address, that the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria would have said that Nnamdi Kanu should be released. Because it's a breach of fundamental human rights. If court has made pronouncements, and then security agencies still have the right to hold the man in custody, then something is wrong. Because these are the values of democracy. When laws are governing, not the intention or the mindset of a certain particular set of people. So this is the thing. If this is what the law says, we should follow the law to the letter.
The president also mentioned diversity.
Yeah.
Democracy promotes diversity, encourages diversity.
Oh, yeah.
Which comes to what you're talking about. So the diversity were different people, who have different tongues, who have different cultures. How has that diversity shown positively or negatively in our democracy today?
Yeah, but see, this is a problem. So when we do periodic selections of people, And I was so happy the other day that the president himself has alluded to this fact, fundamental fact. Because as Nigerians today, when we sit down and we talk about governance, what we look at is Abuja. Nobody thinks about what's happening in the state. Nobody thinks about what is happening in the local governments. And these shares are also equally taking resource from the national purse. What they do with it, we cannot tell. And then you go around every other place. If you go to the US, you see mayorities where mayors are working, constructing roads, building everything.
Seriously.
If you go to UK, you see council working. They are building good roads. So what are the local councils in Nigeria doing? We cannot see their hands at work. Reason they are not able to do anything or they are not functional is because the state governments have emasculated the local council. Because they have people who become councillor, they have people who become the chairman of the council, and therefore these people are answerable to them. And whatever resources that comes to them, they divert it and use it for their own toward ends. So this is a problem.
How do we solve that? We're talking commitments to democratic values.
Yeah.
Now, how important is transparent elections to us, protecting citizens' rights, fostering our diversity, based on the last question I asked? How do we get here from where we are right now? How do we get there?
You see, this is what I'm talking about. When you have a political party system that has not evolved, has not developed, as a matter of fact, it's getting worse every day.
It has not worked.
Yes. The political party is getting worse every day. And this is why you can see people transiting from one party to the other, moving here today. Today they are in the next place they are here. Tomorrow they went to that place, they come back again. They are negotiating because all that is important to them is just to grab power and become the emperor of the state.
You know why that is so appalling is, let's take for instance the Democrats and the Republicans in the US. You would never see a Republican cross over to the Democrats because their values that they stand by.
Yeah, they can in some instances.
If they change hope.
Yes, of course, they call it class suicide.
Good.
So you are coming to a point and there are some certain values you feel that the party should represent, but the other person is not representing it. What do? You are saying is like a protestation. So you go to anchor your platform on a different platform. You know, for example, Donald Trump started as a Democrat.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Or you say when those things happen, it happens for a solid reason.
For some certain reasons. But tomorrow now, you cannot be talking about a Donald Trump going back to the Democratic Party or talking about a Donald Trump family, even following that Democratic path. Because they have gotten to a point and said, what do we really need? How do we think states should be organized? Because for instance, if you look at the culture of democracy in the US, you find that Donald Trump was actually a square peg in a round hole in a Democrat. Oh yes, the real home was a conservative. Because in terms of society organization, we are talking about protecting the interests of business, which is what Donald Trump represents. So that is what it is. It's difficult for you to be conservative in your head, and then your card is democratic.
And your actions.
So this is a problem we have in Nigeria. And that's why I'm asking, see, even in the last elections, even people who were in the Labour, people who were in the PDP, you are asking them, what exactly do you represent? They are telling you, oh, we're all the same. We're all saying the same thing. How can you be saying the same thing? If you are saying the same thing, then banded yourself together and run as one. So we know we have one political party. So this is the problem because the political party structure in Nigeria is not developed. If Babangida did not squander the opportunity we had in forming a political association, by now Nigeria would have been better than what we are today. Which is actually the greatest abuse on the democratic process. I remember Ganifa Wahimi, National Conscience Party.
Great man.
Several loans and trail of people who believed in him. With registration party, papers, all were to be submitted in Abuja. And all these efforts were done and they were all wasted.
Thwarted.
By just one man. who was desperate to stay on to power. So I just feel that the way to go is, first and foremost, we have to first of all know what we represent as a people. How do political parties evolve? Funding and financing of political parties. How is it done? Who are the stakeholders? Because like they say, he who paid the pipers dictate the tune. So what you have in here, you see some money banks back together and they sponsor the party and be giving money to people from the below who doesn't really know what they represent to support and follow them. And so when we come out every 4 years, we think, oh, we have had election and therefore we are democratic. So in my view, Nigeria is not democratic yet. We are not. We need to evolve a culture of democracy where, of course, the Constitution is supreme.
Correct.
Where, for example, right for associations. People can form association, whatever association they want to belong to.
Freedom.
Where, of course, we have political parties that is strong enough to defend its manifestos, even in government.
Right.
So because this is important, and these are fundamental to democracy. So you don't have one governor who, in quote, become the leader of the party and have supremacy over the party. Then at the national level, you have one president who become the leader of the party and has supremacy over the party.
So, Doc,
So nobody calls into order.
Doc, let me hit you with my last question. The president talked about vowing. He vowed to uphold the principles of democracy, whether economically and for all the citizens. What would you advise him, or how would you advise him to achieve that which he has pledged and vowed to do?
You see, like they say, he should have a template on the ground.
He does.
And that template should be honoring court orders
Now, that's...
without allowing court processes to be breached.
Mm.
So once we can ensure that the law governs, every other thing will be fine. But as it is now, it's still selective.
Mm.
So we want to see a president who, based on what we have agreed in the Constitution to stamp out corruption. 100%. Because that's constitutional matter. It's in Chapter 2 of the Constitution.
Yes.
That the duty of government is to stamp out corruption, but it's still in every places. And this is why we are not making progress. So we need the president to demonstrate with action, not with words, commitment to the rule of law. And then, of course, we see him in action, walking the talk in terms of providing economic leverages for the citizen.
Thank you so much, Doc. Leveraging rule of law, following the rule of law. We've come to the end of the show today, SOUQ Business Landscape. The conversation about the president's speech will continue as we join Early Exchange. Thank you for hanging in.